I'm Kyle McClinigan, and welcome to this week's episode of the Batt Signal. If anyone has been near Kyle Field this week, they probably wondered why a small village of brightly decorated shacks seemingly sprung up overnight. These shacks aren't students getting ready for ticket pulling during football season next fall, but are actually part of the annual fundraiser hosted by Texas A&M's Habitat for Humanity to raise awareness for homelessness. Here to talk more about the event is our news editor, Aubrey Vogel.
So Shack-a-Thon allows students to kind of come in and bring awareness to homelessness by building shelters. And in these shelters, they live in them for like 5 days. Someone from the organization is there, but at the same time, like, they can kind of rotate and obviously go to classes and, go to other engagements as needed. But a lot of the students that we talk to actually have made it into a contest to see who can log the most hours in the shack that they've created. So it's definitely like a little learning experience for everyone, as the students involved, as well as like everyone walking by. I mean, you can't miss them if you're walking past Kyle Field. They're huge structures and decked out, decorated in a bunch of different ways. I mean, there's a Minecraft one, a Waffle House. I think there's like a Tony the Tiger one. So there's definitely plenty of, fun artwork on there to catch people's attention, to bring them out and raise awareness. And then additionally, throughout the 5-day period, they also have people come out and speak and events. So the College Station Mayor, Carl Mooney, came and spoke on Tuesday. And then on Thursday, the Yell leaders are going to come and lead a Yell practice. And they also do like fun events like movies. And they're having like a Nintendo Switch little tournament to kind of bring, some fun into it for the students.
Okay, great. And what are some of the rules surrounding the event?
So the biggest rule is within your organization, you have to have at least one person in the hut at all times, 24 hours a day. This doesn't have to be the same person, but you do have to have someone representing your organization. And they kind of keep track of that through wristbands and other kind of guidance procedures.
Okay, and do you know how many different organizations are participating this year?
There are 14 organizations participating in Shack-a-Thon this year, so definitely an increase after not being able to do the event due to COVID-19. So I know that the Habitat for Humanity Texas A&M chapter said they were super excited about the turnout.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for being on.
Perfect. Thanks, Kyle.
If you've ever thought to yourself, there's nothing to do in College Station, you're not the first. A magazine designed to solve just this problem has sadly come to an end, but our opinion editor, Nathan Barnell, is here to give some words of remembrance about the influential publication titled 979 Represent.
979 is a little magazine that ran on some folded over 8.5 by 11 sheets of Xerox paper, printed in black and white, that could be found at a lot of different bars and locally owned businesses, cafes, in Bryan in particular, from December 2009 to just this past December of 2021. So it only recently got shuttered. It was made to be mainly by and for locals. In fact, the way that the first issue in that format, after they've been making it on newsprint for some months, puts it, is 979 Represent is a local magazine for locals with no hopes of ever turning a profit. It was a passion project made by and for the artists of Bryan College Station and the broader Brazos Valley. Many of its creators were in local bands, were visual artists, and writers. A lot of its contributors were people who just found it, sent a message to the email on the inside cover, and wrote something, whether poetry, a short story. They even ran serialized comics for some time. So it was really a collection of local art from the Brazos Valley. But beyond that, its creators, Kelly Menace, Michael Scarborough, Katie Killer, as she went by, Nikki and Matt Shea, and Kevin Still, among others, were all influential in the local music scene of the Brazos Valley, which really got going around about 2010 to 2012. After Johnny Football had brought the attention back on Bryan College Station and things had started growing again, more people moving into the area, a lot of new artists came into the area. And through the Revolution Cafe and Bar, among many other venues, a group of artists started to form a sort of camaraderie. They put it as a brotherhood of music. And some of them would come from Austin, some of them would come from Houston. Many were based here in the Brazos Valley. And they explored all kinds of different genres of music, which 979 documents, endorsed, and its creators even created a music festival called Loudfest that ran up until, I believe, 2018 or 2019.
Okay, and you already kind of went into it a little bit, but what was the importance or the purpose of this magazine to the local, not just Bryan College Station community, but specifically the music community?
Well, at its core, on the very back cover, there was always a concert calendar talking about what bands would be playing where in the area for every given month, since it was a serialized monthly edition. Typically, there would be someone playing at Revolution, or they would be playing at the Grand Stafford, places like that, which are many still venues today, although Revolution is closed and a lot of its employees went on to make the 101 bar on Texas Avenue. The concert calendar was pretty much the critical part of the magazine, because from that concert calendar is how a lot of these people met in real life. Kelly Menace, the editor-in-chief of sorts, talks about how a lot of the writers that they met, a lot of the artists that they met, the musicians that they performed alongside, they met at local bars or because they had been performing and these creators were in the audience, or vice versa. Kelly, among others, played in bands such as Ex-Optimists or Charm Bomb or The Hangovers. They even ran their own record label, Sinkhole Texas Incorporated, or Shitty from its abbreviation SHTI, if you look it up. So they had a lot of influence in the area just from being around each other and enjoying each other's music, wearing each other's band shirts. The influence was that it could be whatever it wanted to be, as Menace put it, every month. But there was always that core of the music and the arts in the area connecting people.
Okay, and your article is titled In Memory of 979 Represent. So why is the magazine going away or stopping production?
Well, as Menace put it, life happened to people. A lot of the artists, writers, Kelly himself, moved out of the area. Kelly Menace is in North Carolina right now. Kevin Still is still here. He's a English professor at Blinn, I believe. But many writers and creators and musicians went their separate ways. COVID, in particular, had a big impact on that when shows got shut down for about 2 years. So, when you're not a creator in the area that you're writing about, I can only imagine how difficult that is to keep a pulse on what's really going on. So Menace is hoping to reopen a publication called Dirtbag Quarterly. Instead of a monthly issue, a quarterly magazine from artists that he's come to know and that, the associated artists have all built a community out of that has now spread across the country. People from Chicago, North Carolina, all the way to California or New York. Still plenty based on the Brazos Valley, but hopefully to keep that punk rock angle, that alternative music angle, and just speaking to the broader area. Fortunately, because of its medium, just this folded over black and white paper, it's a very easy magazine to produce. It's not coming on these glossy pages like you see from Insight around in the area. It's very simple, and it's true to the people who make it. It's meant for its content, for the art, not necessarily some fancy medium.
Okay, and how did you discover this magazine, and I guess what inspired you to write a whole article about it?
Well, during 2021 Pride, I went into this art gallery that's now gone under called Well Hung Art, and I met the then manager or owner. I can't recall exactly her title at the time, but Tay Huggins, who's now a friend of mine. She's a musician in the area. She's known several of the creators for 979. And while I was there, I saw a stack of copies on her front table, and so I took one. I read it, and I went back and had a conversation with her one time, hoping to write about some of the arts in the area. The story never came of it at the time, but we had a lot of conversation about how 979 had helped shape it, and how the artists who were involved helped shape the scene that ran from about really the golden years being 2010 to 2018 or so, before people moved on. And I've been just really passionate about it. I've been thinking about it and how great it was to have this magazine. So, of course, I've picked up a few copies, but then it ended in December, and I felt I had to write something about it, something in memory of how people who were, as Menace put it, bored and wanted to make something, wanted to make all kinds of things. I hear a lot from students, whether it's on Twitter or in person, who say there's nothing to do in College Station. And first of all, I tell them to go to Bryan, because that's where all the stuff really is to do, all the local businesses, all the art, all the concerts. But there's also this opportunity to make something. And as Menace put it, the blackboard has really been erased on what can be done. There's no gatekeepers. There's not really an old guard at this point. There's history, but so many people have moved on that there's plenty of opportunity to make something again. And I hope that creators more talented than I can come to make something like 979 again in the future.
Okay, great. And kind of going into that, do you think this will leave behind a void that something else might fill? Like in the public sphere, I guess.
I'm hoping so. I'm certainly hoping that the battalion's Life and Arts desk might fill some of that role, though 979 is arguably a little bit more vulgar than I think the battalion would produce. There's plenty of opportunity. I know that Can-Am Student Radio does a lot of stuff like this, just of course in the spoken word format. They recently hosted the Save the Music concert at the 101, which some of our writers did report on in advance. And that's a good example, I think, of how students are getting involved in the local arts community. But there's still plenty of potential, still plenty of people who haven't moved on from the area, who still know about everything that went on during this period that I think people should get connected with and hopefully fill that void.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
For the final part of this week's episode, our Life and Arts editors, Catherine Miller and Caroline Wilburn, are here to tell us about some upcoming local events.
Here's some events coming up in College Station this week. Chili Fest is this weekend, April 1st through 2nd. The lineup for April 1st includes the Randy Rogers Band, Flatland Cavalry, Mike Ryan, Cody West, Treaty Oak Revival, and Joey Greer. The lineup for Saturday includes Co Wetzel, Easton Corbin, Colby Cooper, Pecos and the Rooftops, and Tanner Ursi. Performance times are TBD.
Happening on April 1st through 3rd, Chillennium is a 48-hour game jam spanning over 3 days where individuals compete together as a 4-person team to create video games that are judged by industry professionals. Second time in as many years, professional bull riders Pendleton Whiskey Velocity Tour will buck into College Station, Texas, returning to Reed Arena on April 8th through 9th with the PBR Boot Burn Classic in Aggieland. For 2 nights only, some of the best bull riders in the world will battle the sport's rankest bovine athletes in the ultimate showdown of man versus beast, and one of the most exciting live sporting events to witness.
The Barricade Boys Stars from Les Mis on London's West End will close the 49th season of Opus with a one-night-only concert in Rudder Auditorium on Thursday, April 7th at 7:30 p.m. Presented by Opus as part of the Let's Get Together season, tickets range from $20 to $70 and are on sale now at mscopus.org.
Legacy Night is the next chapter for the junior class of Texas A&M. This year, the event will be held on March 31st. It will include a meal, a keynote speaker, and a time capsule display. At a later date, they will be burying the capsule behind the administration building and marking it with a monument dedicated to their class. The event will be held on March 31st from 5:23 p.m. to 8:23 p.m. on the front lawn of the administration building.
This week's contributors are Aubrey Vogel, Nathan Barnell, Catherine Miller, and Caroline Wilburn. For more on all the stories discussed today, please visit our website or pick up a print edition on any of the newsstands on campus. This week's episode was produced and edited by Kyle McClinigan.